All right.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to be back in Sueur with you in our Zoom room together. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Bernadine Jocelyn with Blandin Foundation here with our team to check in with our Sueur colleagues on our Strut Your Stuff Tour 2021 version. So our goal time today is to just have a good time catching up with one another. We're here to listen and walk through how things are going, what you're working on, how we can help. And Barbara's given us a heads up that we're going to have a little bit of a revolving door of people coming and leaving, and to accommodate schedules. That's all great. We get that. Barbara, I'll turn it over to you.
And I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Bill has agreed to be MC.
Hi, everyone. This meeting really has a couple purposes. One is to talk about the successes so far, and then to push forward and what's next. And so we're gonna do a little bit of what's next talking here towards the end of the meeting. So if you have ideas about what we should do next as a community, but you're gonna have to bug out sometime during the meeting, if you want to put your ideas right in the chat, that will be a great opportunity to share that information and have your input, even if you can't stick around for the later half of the meeting. So John, whatever, maybe we want to put some sensors in those ditches so we can find out who's putting the water in and what's in the water they're putting in. So wouldn't people hate that, to bring some facts to that discussion? Would probably.
Oh, it's a lot more entertaining if you just base it on emotion and drama.
A smart ditch program. I think that would be a great one. So I've been advocating that actually for several years around water quality, that if the water is cleaner when it leaves your property than when it comes in, you get a check from the state.
Yep.
And if it's dirtier, more polluted, you pay. And that just seems we wouldn't have to worry about buffer enforcements or whatever. You just, let's be results oriented.
That would be far too simple and easy and more easy to administer to have government involved in something like that. So it has to be complex and controversial, it seems.
So Barbara's going to kind of lead us from where we've started and what we've accomplished and where we are today. So Mary, are you going to share that screen, or do you want me to do that?
Well, let's start with introductions of everybody again.
I'm a lousy MC. So let's have Bernadine has already introduced herself. Mary, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Mary Magnuson. And yeah, I was planning on sharing the PowerPoint for Barbara. I work at Blandin Foundation, Grant Administrator.
Good. And Anne, welcome.
Hi, I have a kid emergency, so I will be driving for the first 20 minutes of this, but I'm looking forward to hearing what's going on. So thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And John King, everyone who needs no introduction, but go ahead.
I'm John King. I'm a Sueur County Commissioner, and I'm the board liaison to the broadband working group.
Good.
So, and I'm just a supportive bystander.
Shannon, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Shannon Frost. I was late, so I'm still trying to get settled. I'm a resident, I'm a veteran, interested in broadband. I just kind of fill any role I need to.
Good, thank you. Michelle. And you're muted, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Don, a senior citizen in Sueur County, and so interested in knowing what's going on, and hopefully I'll be able to help somehow.
Great, thank you. We love that second part of that statement. Carl?
Hi, I'm Carl Mink, Director of IT and Facilities for TCU, also a 34-year resident of this fine area. Shannon, I liked your idea about, actually not just being identified by a position and a job, but also that we live here and we breathe here and we do things here. So I'm here to facilitate whatever I may.
Great, thank you. Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy Lieneman. I'm the director of Sueur Regional Library System, and we obviously provide internet support for the communities.
Great, thank you. And Sarah?
I'm Sarah Malco, and I live in rural Sueur County and help with the coalition.
Thank you. Denise?
And you can't see me very good, but my name is Denise Reeser, and I am also a Sueur County resident. I actually moved back after living in Brainerd for almost 20 years. So Sueur County is so awesome that I had to place my kids here and come back. I am currently a farm business management instructor, so I work with close to 50 farms in the area, many in Sueur County. I think predominantly in Sueur County, but I do branch out into other counties as well. So I have tried to get my farmers to do the speed tests and do the surveys and that type of thing, because they need access to broadband for their businesses and to be productive in our county. And I think Sueur County is a great place to live, and I'm glad to be on the committee as well.
Thanks, Denise. That light fixture makes you look, that's Saint Denise now.
I know, it's the bright LED bulbs in there. So, and I don't have very good internet, so that's probably the last you'll see me, but I will be listening. So, and I'm seeing some utility trucks in the area, so I'm hopeful that my fiber is being connected here in Lanesburg Township. So I'm excited.
Sweet. Janet, hi.
Hi, I'm Janet Nordstrom. We have 3 people on this group today from Ottawa Township. And Ottawa Township has special difficulties with getting fiber broadband to it. So I'm going to try to stay on this group until Ottawa gets noticed and something gets done.
Sounds good.
I actually get my internet now from Shannon, who gives it to her neighbor, and he bounces it over to my house.
Yay, I didn't know you did that.
I still get kicked off occasionally now, though.
Well, I hit the cord with the weed eater, so I was afraid that I knocked you all out.
No.
That's what duct tape is for.
I don't know if that could have fixed it.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pam Williams, a regional VP for Ridgeview, LeSueur, and Sibley. Great.
Great, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. This LeSueur group has been really something in what they've accomplished, and great participation. So we really applaud you for your work. It'd be extraordinary in ordinary times, but in these extraordinary times, you're far from ordinary. So we appreciate that. Mary, do you want to share your screen?
Aren't you seeing my screen?
Yeah, but it's not centered for some reason.
Oh, what is that? What's going on here? Oops. Why is it doing that?
That's why you're doing this. I'm not competent to do this.
I never share my screen. And now it's doing that annoying thing that I wish would never happen, that presenter view. And now I've lost my, okay, I'm good. What are you seeing now? Is it that annoying?
Now it's all the PowerPoint.
Yeah, this will work if you just use the slide tray on the left-hand side now, Mary. What's going to happen is presenter view is going to bust you up. You're using PowerPoint to see. So just hit the tabs, and we'll have enough data, I think. Try the next slide just real quick, if you would.
Yeah.
I'd click on slide 2.
I'm advancing the slides.
Oh, we don't see them.
Yeah.
There must be something going on.
You know what, Mary?
He has it too. He's going to try it.
Okay. Where'd he go? Oh,
There he is.
he got kicked off.
That was user error. Hold on.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Mary and I actually rehearsed this ahead of time and agreed we were going to do this just to make everybody feel more comfortable. You know,
Right.
that we all mess up. So
I don't know. My PowerPoint opened up like 4 windows on me, and I'm just like, what is going on?
It did make me feel better because we had a Zoom meeting for the VFW and the internet wasn't very good at the Montgomery Legion. And I
Mhm.
bet you 20, and I'm hosting it. I bet you 20 different times we had to reconnect. Thank God they were all patient on it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Fantastic.
We can see that. Oh, yeah.
Yep. Good. Go for it, Barbara.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to run through this fast. For some of you, some of this will be redundant, but it does give you an overall picture of the incredible journey we've been on since last June. But I'm starting with capacity for how we're going to move on because it feels so overwhelming how much we've done and how much more there is to do. So I'm going to start with talking about the Lead for America Fellowship. And I'll ask Carl to say a little bit about it as well, because this is going to really help us with where we go next with this. This is going to be $30,000 of Blandon funds to support an intern fellow for 2 years based at TCU. We're able to work on digital navigation and that Purdue digital survey that we put off for a period of time because we didn't have the capacity to do it. So Carl, go ahead. We've been talking about this. Give a pitch about this.
We are really excited. Benya's team from Waseca. Benya actually is one of the founding members of this group and has come back to her area around Waseca to build these types of partnerships and relationships with municipalities, and based around the idea of taking recent graduates from college and bringing them back to their home communities to apply their skill sets in focused areas of broadband development, first of all, but once that's done, continuing that idea to get the results out of the systems that are being built for the end users based around some of the concepts that we all enjoyed so much from the Purdue deep dive on the digital navigator, you know, those local digital assets and users and I guess facilitators of various elements of technology that are within your community and multiplying their skill sets out to the broader community. So I am very excited about this because it's hitting the sweet spot of, you know, being all dressed up, right, Barb, and having no place to go. Well, this gives us the place to go. What is the application? What are the intended benefits and outcomes that we envisioned at the beginning of putting the wires and glass and towers around the county, and how can we best apply that and make those new networking opportunities available and accessible to business owners, to our municipalities and institutions, our not-for-profits, and our county school districts as well.
And then the next piece is, and this date is, we just got this date set up for this follow-up, but as a part of our discussion about using technology supporting businesses, came up with this idea to do with the Southeast Minnesota Initiative Fund, Southern Minnesota, I don't know why I call it Southeast, Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund, Region 9 Development Center, to do asset mapping of the businesses across the county. So there's a steering committee that's meeting to frame the discussion. Then there will be a big county meeting at the Sueur County 4-H building on July 15th. Very excited about that. And helping the county with the small business grants, both from CARES Act and the state dollars. One of the comments that's going to come from the next stage contract administrator is, we are the worst county he has ever seen for businesses' use of technology. And I said, you know, come on, these are bars and restaurants. He said, no, these are the accountants and the lawyers. So there's going to be asset mapping, and it'll be a great venue to explore what the needs are for businesses and technology. And then I also want to add that we're still looking at communication, and you'll see in the report that we did a lot of improvements with the county website, but we're still looking at opportunities to have a separate website to promote some of these things. And we're having conversations with Region 9 about whether or not they're going to be willing to step up and do that. So stay tuned. Communication still continues to be a big issue. So next slide, please. Okay, so last June, we all met in a Zoom. Some of us have never met ever face to face, and here we still are Zooming. And we came up with this great list of projects, of which you're going to see a lot of them on the slides to come. And what happened is right after that, a pile of CARES Act monies came in that we could use for broadband and some of the initiatives that were projects of the Blandin project. So we actually switched the funding over to the CARES Act funding, and some of our projects were actually funded by that, which allowed us to keep the Blandin dollars for a period of time. So that's the starting point. That's the amount of money we have. The $75,000 from the Blandin Corporation we got in September. As of December, we still hadn't spent much of it, but now we've committed $5,500 for the Southeast Minnesota Initiative Fund, $30,000 for the Lead for America Fellow, and then about $6,000 for consulting fees. So we still have somewhere around $30,000 left to dedicate to the next phases of what we're doing for planning. Okay, Bill. Thanks. So we did 535 for fiber, which ran from Rice County over to St. Peter. We did some funding for the CenturyLink portion. This was a township that funded 12 households that weren't in our border-to-border grant because they were in CenturyLink. And then we did 7 tower locations to get fixed wireless up there and cover more of the county sooner than fiber takes. And that was County CARES Act funds with $200,000 contributed from the townships for all of that. So, and that was our number one, the points up there, that was our voting last June for Blandin projects. The number one was doing broadband planning. So we've made progress. We still have a way to go. And another project we had was making broadband more affordable. Some of those hookups for the wireless will be funded under the CARES Act, but that's still, accessibility is still a big issue. Wi-Fi lending at libraries, that's still a big to-do, to go back and look at if we needed to do more. We have done a lot of speed testing. We need to do another round of communication about that. We have about 400 responses for speed testing. Okay, Bill, thanks. So with the CARES Act funds, we did Chromebooks. That wasn't for schools. That was for people in the community and some township officials and people looking for jobs under Minnesota Valley Action Council. And we did those 50 desktops that went from PCs for People, that went to Minnesota Valley Action Council for families that were looking for capacity there. And of course, the schools funded a lot of devices. So Janet worked on the dig once policy. That was a no-go, but that did get approached, and that just didn't seem to be feasible. 24-hour hotspots, we do have more hotspots, but we don't have a map yet as to where they all are. But we've, with the CARES Act funds, one township hall, several county parks, and the county fairgrounds are going to have free Wi-Fi hotspots. Carl mapped out all the school lunch kits for the entire county, so we know where they are and who are the families that are in need of the access. Those federal dollars will be coming down the road. But that was a great thing to know where they are and where the access issues are. to cellular coverage is still a huge issue, still a huge issue. A lot of drop-off points in the county, and I don't hear much progress. We hear a lot of rumors initially about more towers, but haven't seen any results yet. That's still a huge issue. And the spaces for access to technology, that was the idea that people would have a place to go in to use Wi-Fi, and because of COVID, that hasn't really happened. Local forums for improving communications. I added there the community-wide marketing tools that we did. We do have that business mapping session coming up. And then the rest that are not bolded, there are projects that were brought up that haven't been worked on as yet. So take notes if you're going to break out into rooms and talk about other projects we might want to work on in the immediate future. Okay. Wi-Fi and buses. Carl, didn't you guys do Wi-Fi and buses?
We did them in mobile vans for a period of time when we had the highest need before we could get those digital assets and hotspots out into the community.
Okay.
On buses, our bus provider, Palmer, had used Cradle Points for a while and found that so many of the students had mobile devices that they were transporting before and after school, that their investment in the Cradle Points on the buses just wasn't worth their support, interestingly enough.
Okay.
So we did take a couple of other avenues though to fill that need.
Okay. Community ed focus on tech activities for kids and communities. We're hoping to look at that again under the fellowship. Countywide website, and we did not do a calendar, but Sarah did a lot of work on the county website, which was really invaluable for getting the CARES Act information out there, the small business information, made a lot of improvements on that. Internet access for subsidized housing. I think that did happen with in Sueur at one household. We got some PCs there, and they were working on getting the internet access done. Technology assistance is still a big need. Shared technology tools with the CARES Act dollars. Carl set up a Google Suite for government, and we have some townships that are working on that. And we've been doing our broadband planning under that, so we can do those shared tools. A lot more can be done on that.
Yes, supplementally, if I can add to that,
yes.
Barbara, the EMS, police, fire, and DHS systems also are under that similar umbrella, running on the new Cradle Point systems with AT&T T-Mobile.
Right.
In the FirstNet network for their hotspots. And then we also did provide laptops, Chromebook laptops that are then managed under that new
right.
domain. Yeah, so that they
right.
can
Thank you.
vehicle emergency response access to network resources.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder on that. Okay. Bill, you're talking, but your lips are moving, but I can't hear you. There you go. Okay. Still, these are ones that are still to do, that that were ideas that came up that we haven't done anything with. Okay, go, Bill. Okay. So where are we at for broadband capacity, and where are we going with that? This is such a literal moving target still. And that's one of the challenges of trying to communicate. I still get a lot of questions in email. What are we doing? What are the blockages? And you guys who are on the Blandon calls, who are more engaged with this, know what some of the issues are. But the RDOF dollars, which is federal dollars that went to various census tracts. And I just actually got a tremendous amount of information about this that to look at for our county. But it's a significant amount of federal dollars that locks in with LTD for fiber when and if they can get to it. So when we look at the projects that didn't get funded from border to border with MetroNet and with BevCom, we're looking at how can we move ahead, and can we partner with LTD, and those conversations are happening. So that's a huge issue. I also spent a lot of time these last 2 weeks looking at, there's some new state dollars that are old CARES Act dollars under a new hood, under community block grant funds, up to $5 million. Spent a lot of time looking at it. That's going to be a no-go. They added too many regulations to it to make it really cost effective administratively. And the timeline to have it up in an application by June 1st, it's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. And LTD would have to be a part of that. If we were doing it with MetroNet and with BevCon, we could get that done, but we have to have LTD to be a part of it. And that's too short a timeline to make that happen. Starting to engage with the townships in a big way. There is going to be some federal dollars coming down to township. Initially, it was looking at $2 million. Now it's looking more like $1 million from some information that I just got. But I have to say that at the county, I'm really proud of us that we did the work that we did with the CARES Act funding and engaging with the townships and the cities as well. The cities are signing up with MetroNet potentially, and they're going through all kinds of discussions about the oh, Bill, what's that word? The cable companies issue that
franchise agreement.
Franchise agreements. All of the cities are dealing with the franchise agreements issues, which is something that was developed for cable companies. In talking to Melissa Reeder yesterday from the League of Cities, formerly Sueur County resident, she said that it's just a hornet's nest of regulations and how what the dollars come in for, what it's expected to pay for. If people don't use cable, then there's less revenues to support programs for the cities. But we have MetroNet ready to build fiber now in our cities, and we have to get that issue resolved. So I'm talking to MetroNet this morning. They think they have it resolved, but it's not getting easier moving ahead in terms of looking at resources and figuring out how to move ahead. It's getting more complicated, but we're in a really good place here because of all the groundwork we've already laid.
Barbara, I have a question about the MetroNet stuff.
Yeah.
So there was a discussion previously on our Lee Sueur Facebook page. MetroNet had made some appointments for installation of people, and then they canceled them.
Yeah.
And is that because of what you were talking about with those franchise problems or something? And then
I don't think so. I think that there's still a company that's moving ahead with under that combination, and there's still some issues, I think, about who's doing what where and all of that. It's not related to the franchise issues. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was just a mistake.
Shannon, I can give a little insight to that. MetroNet didn't fully know what areas they could and couldn't serve based on where they have infrastructure. Like my home on the corner of 4th and Ferry is one city block away from their fiber, but they can't provide me service because it's one block of no connection. And
Right.
they didn't completely understand that there was some of these areas that they couldn't serve just because they didn't have the infrastructure there. They knew they had fiber in town, but it's not everywhere in town. And that's why they made appointments to install. And then finally had that aha or oh shit moment where they said, oh, we made the appointment, but we can't do it. And that's why it was canceled.
now, but did you hear about the new email they sent out yesterday? So yesterday they posted someone with the cancellation, and a couple people agreed and said they got an email today from a senior sales manager. I noticed you canceled your installation before they were installed. Wanted to remind you, blah, blah, blah. 2 months service free installation, a free streaming for. They're offering all this stuff so they're sending emails out to all these people they canceled again.
And I can't speak to that. That's a MetroNet issue, and
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
But, you know, if they're, same with, you know, my opinion with LTD and some of the, as they're, you know, they get bigger, their community or customer service gets, you know, worse to me, you know, well, maybe that they won't give up on it because it's their way to get fiber, you know, but, you know, let's schedule, let's cancel, let's, you know, offer stuff. Oh, wait, we can't do it. You know, it's not very good customer service to people they're hoping to serve. So I don't know, you know, if you can bring that up because they're talking about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Shannon, we definitely will. And that's something that Barb and I have been looped into and really sensitive about is the messaging, the marketing, the advertising, the timing, the outreach. Also, additionally to that, in addition to MetroNet and NetWave, we have LTD that is just showering social media. You know, I get 3 or 4 LTD requests for hookup on my phone a day, and I've shared those with Barb. So some sort of a you know, a touchstone of some sort, or a communication availability and assessment portal, maybe potentially under the new broadband website, Barb, is something that I think is going to be a priority too, also for our fellows, to find out who has what, who's doing what, who's communicating what, and what can actually be delivered as the next component. And that, you know, part of the connectivity is of course the infrastructure, which we've been really focusing hard on.
Yeah.
The next layer then becomes that facilitating the endpoint connectivity to the doorstep or over the top or via the antennas. And there's a lot of chatter. And I totally agree, Shannon, it's very, very confusing. For me, even having some inside view of who's doing what, where, when, and how, it's very, very unclear as to what the actual product, service, and availability is. So,
Well, and I don't know if they're just getting so big, some of these, you know, that they don't care. But I mean, as soon as I have a better option, I'm out of here. And Janet already said she's the 3rd person I know of that is bouncing off of me, you know, and I would feel bad if, you know, all my neighbors that I like don't have internet because I bounce. But the last time there was an outage, I was in a position where I could stay on hold to find out what's going on. And it was this big outage because of a fiber line going to a tower cut or whatever. I'm like, you know, you're spending all this money on advertising, put a message on your Facebook page that there's an outage and I'll understand, you know, I'm like, so that's what I don't get about them is they can spend all this money for advertising and looking for new customers, but it's like, they don't care to communicate with their current customers, you know, and
yeah.
And I'm 100%. If I have a better option, I'm splitting with LTD. I've had it, you know, with them.
You know, I hear you. It's our 21st century Tower of Babel, right? We've got all these ways of communicating in so many different language channels and opportunities, but nobody's speaking the same language or having the same ideas in their mind at the same time, right? So,
yeah.
One thing I would encourage people as there's now some competition for the customer base in Sueur County is to watch what you agree to, watch where you click. Because we've seen unnamed large telephone companies that may start with F, they've actually, when there's new providers coming into a market, they'll say, oh, how would you like, you know, to their existing customers, how would you like faster speeds? And people say, you know, no charge, we're going to raise you from 10 to 20 meg or whatever. And then people say yes, so they click. And then of course the user agreement that no one really reads says you just signed a 2-year agreement. And so that is a real, it's really important to educate your consumers that in this kind of chaos, that what seems kind of a good deal, they need to really look at what they're agreeing to.
that is a great point, Bill. You know, Barb and I have been out in the hinterlands and weeds watching all these locate flags, which is a great thing, pop up. And in and along the way, you see fiber splicers. I saw an LTD van that I haven't seen in 2-3 years in the area, Barb, on the way home yesterday. And we were talking about who's the extreme provider downtown Montgomery, because there were two vans down there. It's like as soon as you get a heavy lean in investment for base infrastructure, all the cockroaches come out of the woodwork, you know, and there they are scurrying about trying to be visible to their customers and do something when they've spent years doing nothing, right?
Is there some kind of blog post or something that, Bill, that talks about, you know, kind of some of the tricks they're doing now that we could share with, kind of like some of the, you know, other internet scams that we, you know, the telemarketer calls, you know, or social security scams, you know, that we get word out about that stuff that we could share with people?
You know, we'll look a little bit for that and we'll see if we can find something.
Okay. Yeah, I'd definitely share away with it, you know, to help educate people. Tired of companies not being held accountable. I'm in a mood today.
Uh-oh.
So true.
Well, I think we can take down the slide thing, the PowerPoint thing. But I'm wondering if we should break up into small groups or just stay as one larger group since it's a smaller group. Stay as one big group? Yep.
I think so.
Well, maybe we should just go around and ask everybody what they think about what do you think the next steps are, and as opposed to, so we hear from everyone.
I think that's a great idea, Barbara.
Well, let's start with Stacy Linneman.
Well, when it comes to the library, you know, I saw that the library's on your list, and we were able to add about 71 hotspots to the libraries in our 2 counties. And that has been about the right amount for us. But we only got funding for a year, and you know, almost all of the funding is not a place where we can request funding again. It was, you know, it was, you know, stuff that has to do with the pandemic and recovering from that. And so we're really looking for funding for the next year. And so this funding runs out this fall.
Is that something that Southern Minnesota Fund could contribute to?
Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund did fund our initial project. And then we had 3 different other entities step in. But, you know, like Smith's was just a, you know, like a pandemic response type of funding. So I don't anticipate it being an annual source of funding for us.
I've heard rumors of the libraries getting funding separately from the federal government this time. Have you heard any rumors like that?
Yes, we haven't heard any details about how that is going to roll out. Last time we received 0 hotspots from that pool of funding.
Yeah.
Hey, Stacy, are there, how do I put words around this? Are there different prices at different quantities? Like bulk rates for numbers of devices and stuff like that?
Well, there are, I didn't do the research for this, so I don't want to speak too much about it. But I know that we got some through a nonprofit, or but you can only get a few of those a year. And I'm not sure. What I have found is that we got a few T-Mobile and a few Verizon, and in Sueur County, the Verizon ones are more effective. And thus we unfortunately put more money into the T-Mobile because they were less expensive, and we had heard good things about them, but it just wasn't as good in this service area. And so we'll need to do some switching when it comes to this fall. And so we're kind of looking into that. Unfortunately, the person who was leading this project, he's left that position. So we have a new person in. And so there's a little bit of catching up to do.
Stacy, we had the same experience for the school district. We had 30 T-Mobile hotspots on a first round grant from 2 years ago, and extended that with another 50. So we have 70 devices out in the field. And our T-Mobile coverage we're finding is very spotty, and they oversold their intention. You know, they oversold their capacity. And we're finding that we're on that similar trajectory of timeline. I'm going to allow at least those initial 30 to atrophy, you know, and allow those accounts to just expire. We are using them where we can and as we can. Verizon around Montgomery, I don't know what your experience has been, Shannon, but this is the main thing that I had written down from the PowerPoint, Barb, is also Liz Krochek's concern about cellular coverage as a whole.
She just came on.
Is Liz here?
Just joined us.
Hey, Liz.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm just getting home.
No, we're just,
Okay.
ironically enough, you joined the meeting just as I said your name about the cellular coverage concern. So your time is impeccable. But Stacy, to your point, we're having that same lived experience with T-Mobile. Unfortunately, Verizon around Montgomery, which would be our go-to or switch to, is horrible right now. Absolutely horrible. And I think Liz can support that. So I think there is a larger conversation, John. I'm not sure what your constituents are hearing out around the county about cellular and data plans and those opportunities that farmers have to use those tools in their fields if they can, if they have the coverage and they're able to capture that coverage on their already being used cellular plans, you know? So what do people think as a whole? That really kind of is a large bailiwick, Stacy, for all of us. And particularly since we're trying to build out fiber on the long term, in the short term, this is our answer. Where is, if you don't mind me asking, where's the coverage area that you're having the most amount of issues, you know, geographically around your library areas?
Sueur, La Center, New Richland. These are all the places that have reported them.
Okay, how about Waterville, 1460 area? We've seen dead zones and T-Mobile's coverage is not very good there. Do you have many of those handed out in that area?
We don't.
Okay.
The Waterville library initially had people checking them out, and then they just haven't. And so we don't have a lot of data or input from those users.
Okay.
This might be a silly question, but have you called T-Mobile? When I was working with one of the clients referred through MVAC to help set up the cool spot, I learned is the term for the T-Mobile ones. She couldn't get it to connect at all, and she needed help. And so we did a 3-way call with T-Mobile, and there was a firmware upgrade that needed to be done on the hotspot, and then she was able to connect. She was over in Cleveland area, so that might be something to look into to see if it, you know, connects a little better.
Definitely look at that. I know that we had one user in New Richland who did a speed test on hers, an upload and download test, and the T-Mobile in the same locations as the Verizon was like, it was a difference of like 60 or something.
Yeah, well, and I felt bad, you know, one, because all this CARES Act money went to this program, and like Carl said, T-Mobile overpromised, and I had an amazing technician that we talked to. She was very patient with the client that, you know, needed some extra help and stuff. And you know, she felt bad too, you know, because it's like, yeah, it sounds like a great program, but you know, you spent money for it for a year and then the person can't even connect, you know. It's like another company not holding up to what they say they are.
Well, not only that, because I travel these roads, I'm on a Verizon because for my personal cell phone, because I don't trust anybody else on the rural roads. And so I had our person look into it because I hadn't looked into it for the past 10 years. And he said, you know, he looked at Waseca schools and they wrote this report about how they've been able to connect with everybody in T-Mobile, you know, so there was no problem. And I was like, okay, well, maybe things have improved since I last did my Verizon.
I know in Ottawa Township, Verizon is better than T-Mobile.
It is. Yeah.
Well, today, I think as we go through, I think it'd be great to get a list of things that people want to work on or think
Yep.
about. And then circle back and see who wants to work on what and develop a plan for moving forward.
Yep.
So we heard about the need for library hotspot funding, the cell phone coverage.
Mhm.
Barbara, from that list, that things that are in progress or haven't been done yet, or any favorites that you have or anyone else that if they saw that list? What about this? Do you have like a business incubator kind of thing or co-working center?
That was one of them, and actually the fellow is going to be housed at the TCU school and at one of those potential places in Montgomery. There's an office sharing space in Montgomery, Suite 118. It hasn't been really active because of COVID, and this fellow will have office space there. So we're hoping to grow some of that way as well. Yeah.
Yeah, in the center too, Barb, along that line, and Liz, as you're meeting with your respective municipality groups, the townships, and then also the city team has a higher level team that's getting together, Barb, with you soon.
Yep.
Mayor Frederickson mentioned yesterday that he's very interested in potentially looking at a similar type of a office space, either through the Chamber of Commerce or the city, partnerships.
Yeah.
With next round funding and other opportunities that may arise with our fellow. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I just heard this morning that thanks to Liz that I'm going to be asked to present at the countywide citizens, what do you call that group, Liz?
It's the LeSueur County elected officials. So it's mayor, council people, township people all across LeSueur County. And we met last night. And we did talk about the cell phone coverage. The sheriff was the guest speaker, and we talked about dispatch and 911. I've told this story to Carl and Barbara, but my daughter saw a suspicious vehicle at the end of her driveway and decided to follow it to see where it was going, and was on 911 dispatch on her cell phone. And because of the dip in cell phone coverage, the dispatcher couldn't tell where she was, because he couldn't ping her cell phone. So I asked the sheriff about that. And yes, there are some shortcomings, and he thinks it's entirely the fault of cell phone coverage and not necessarily their equipment. Although he did mention all their Motorola's need to be upgraded, and that's a huge expense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did discuss that last night. They were all pretty deer in the headlights when they talk about how much money is coming into the county. And we would like to let it stay in the county and not have to roll it up to the state. But so they're interested to speak with you next month, Barbara.
Yep. Yep.
They have a longer window, Liz, and tell them not to panic. We can help them apply their dollars very well.
Yes, I did. I mentioned that we have till December 2024, and they were a little relieved to hear that, but they also, none of them knew how much money each individual municipality was going to be receiving. So
well, and Liz, I just was running the numbers ahead of this meeting. There's another list out, and I think Carl's right. It's probably based on the 2020 census as opposed to the 2018. So the numbers are down for townships from 2 million to about 1 million.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I'm rerunning the numbers, and I'll get that list out.
And I won't spend it all till I hear from you.
I know you won't. Yeah.
Good.
Well,
So we go back to the co-working spaces.
Yeah.
Is there a need for a group to help organize that, or is that a town by town thing, or is that who's leading that kind of initiative? Or is that just private sector?
I think that's going to be a good first project for our fellow. And one of the things that's going to happen is to, have those touchstones again, right? So those can be virtual touchstones, they can be digital touchstones, or also landing pads within the individual communities to kind of use that as a fire starter, right? And Barb and I have kind of kicked around that idea, and and considering that at some point in small towns, you need a bricks and mortar presence of some sort, because you're always going to have, as each individual is kind of offered, those breaking points or disconnection points where either information isn't correct, it's varied, or it just isn't available to those people because they aren't in that particular area of the Tower of Babel, right? So that's, I think, really a large emphasis coming out of the gate for the fellow once they're in place, end of summer, first part of the fall this year.
Another thing we talked about in terms of communication is the possibility of, when you have a fellow, is you could actually have a booth at the county fair. You could have a booth at Pioneer Power. You could have booth different places to get in, for people can just come up and ask questions and get information out a different way.
Okay. The some of the, let's see, here's, oh, let me get back to my list here. More digital communication boards throughout the county. There's a project on this list. Is that something that people see as a priority, or?
Well, we've, along that same line, as we went through, several of us on this call were part of the Purdue group talking about doing that digital survey. And we put it on hold because of all the transitions in the county and people being so overloaded right now. But I think that has real potential come this fall when we get a fellow on board to move ahead with that. And that gives us a better idea about how to get that information out there. We just really didn't have the capacity to move ahead at this point.
Okay. So
I think that was part of the overall, when we were brainstorming communication, the paper in the county isn't, the best, and, how do we get the word out to people? But I was wondering, how hard it would be, that initial survey we did, not quite a year ago, with the list of projects, if maybe took the ones that are, completed or in work that we use CARES Act dollars, but then took the rest of the list. It seems like we've learned a lot in a year, about what the needs are or aren't, or what's going to work and not going to work. And
there goes Shannon's connection. Barbara, am I not right? Is this slide 8, the second to last slide? Isn't that list that wasn't done?
Well, actually, throughout the whole list is stuff that wasn't done. Everything that's bolded was worked on. The stuff that isn't bolded was not necessarily done. And yeah, this is the report I did to you guys December 20th of everything that was on that initial list.
I just completely lost internet, so I had no idea what you said to me or what you heard. I'm sorry.
Well, I think I think you have a good point, Shannon, is that a bunch of things have changed since that list was developed. And do we want to revisit the whole list? I was thinking, like, personally, that last mile thing has become apparent at my home. So apparently, so I was thinking about the last mile things as a project.
And you're definitely going to get fiber before, I think
No.
we learned in that, oh, you won't?
So according to Barbara, MetroNet is serving 4 homes north of Township 115. And then MetroNet stops at the city limits of Sueur. So there's us 5 residences that don't have it. And I think I'd have little chance of getting my neighbors to go to, help fund a last mile project.
Right. And that would be the only way, based on what Janet was saying with the problem with them getting fiber through Ottawa, like, for us to even get it, I think is going to be impossible that way.
Yeah, Sarah, there, and I'm not spending Janet's money, but there may be an opportunity to, for Ottawa Township to help extend that, kind of like Darien Township
Yeah.
extended the border to border into the 12 families in St. Thomas. So that should be something that you should be thinking about, that last mile and how to fund it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that money, John and Janet, go into Ottawa? I mean, where there would be more households served?
There's also organizations that just do rural, last mile stuff that we could apply for money from them. Of course, off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it. There's a couple different places where you can apply. And I think where Sarah lives, she doesn't have the same problem that the people in the town of Ottawa have.
No,
a lot of us,
plow the
like
ground.
Shannon, we could get it if they would finally lay fiber down what's now called 22.
Well, I think this is actually, I've had a thought about this too. And I wonder if this summer we shouldn't use the 4-H building and invite the townships to come in and look at what the possibilities are. MetroNet is doing a lot of mapping to see what's possible out there. DevCom is going to look at building out some of those other areas, but to have the bigger discussion and manage expectations about what might be possible in the meantime. Janet, I did ask, and I had not confirmed that MetroNet had a bit that got stuck in the rock and no one has ever come back. No confirmation that that's true.
That is true.
It
got stuck the drill got stuck in the rock, and they had to bring out a rock blaster to get the drill out. Right in.
You gotta call Arthur.
So Barbara says it went from Rice County to St. Peter, but when you get to the little Ottawa section with the black, like, we're screwed. Unless it comes down
there were several things off of that, but not completely. So that's where we should all be in a room and be looking at maps to see what the issues are, talking with MetroNet, talking with BevCom, talking with NetWave, to see what might be viable here with the dollars that are coming down and over the next 2.5 years. By the end of June, we should know what's up with LTD. I'm hearing LTD is moving ahead. We have to partner with them in order to get any of the state dollars. So it's a big moving target, but we're not anywhere near done. And taking the big map and being able to go into a big room and start to have these conversations would really be great.
When I talked to MetroNet, it must have been a couple months ago, they were not interested in doing Ottawa Township for a year or two. They're going into Mankato and Le Sueur and stuff, which of course is much more profitable.
They didn't even want to hear that I was interested if it came to me.
No, they're not interested in us yet.
But I would have to say it's probably been 3 weeks ago that the CEO of MetroNet called me and asked if we want to have a conversation about mapping out the whole county. And
I would love that.
Typically has been a MetroNet itself, not Jaguar. MetroNet has been a city provider.
Mm-hmm.
Jaguar was a rural provider. They're still working out those merger issues. I had a conversation with Don Jensen this morning about that. He has to go back and pitch to his company why we would build out all of Leicester County and where the dollars would come from, which is another piece of the equation. So the conversation's still going because of all the work we're done. We're the only county that MetroNet is talking to about rural broadband.
Yeah, I think that just sounds like a great idea to have a talk with everybody.
And I have to go back to, I reminded the county board of this. When we did the feasibility study in early 2019, the cost of building out the entire county was $20 million. So when you look at all the monies on the table that we're aware of now, it's still a lot of money to build it all out. We're not going to be able to build it all, but let's manage expectations and have fixed wireless where we need to have it and figure out where we can do some more building out. They're certainly interested in doing that. And they have a lot of fiber here already, as John was just saying. There's fiber everywhere here with Jaguar. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There's stuff they can build out from.
Yeah, all of these cell towers get backhaul from somewhere, and not all of it is over the top. much of it is in the ground and proprietary fiber routes.
So I'm going to call this back and not let you talk about last mile anymore, because we know that that's the priority.
Yep.
So Mary wants you to spend your $30,000 by the end of the year. So how is LeSueur County going to do that? They can give it all to the library for hotspots. Stacy likes that idea. You know, you could hire someone to do this mapping for you that you're talking, you know, that's to create these maps, and whether that's the providers doing it or whether you have to hire Region 9 to go out and gather that data, or drive around the county and look to see where the fiber starts and ends and where services are. That would be another possibility that I see here on your list. Is there other people besides the library that where this affordability and connectivity, more on the lower income housing kind of affordability, availability projects? What do we think? Is anyone here ready to lead a project that would spend the money?
Well, one of the things I think may come out of this work with Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund is supporting our businesses. Our businesses, we talked about a lot about that at the conference last June. How do we teach them about websites? How do we teach them about social media? How do we teach them? You know, that's still a big need.
Yeah, and that's a pretty definable project. You know, if you could work with a small business development center, or if you have technology vendors that you are in the county that you're trying to help them build their business, you know, that they could design a way to go in and kind of assess what the business has and needs and get them down that process. Or then we've seen communities do like through an EDA grant, you know, small grants to businesses for, you know, matching grant for technology enhancements, whether that's for networking or social media or e-commerce kind of portals.
Although it has to be more of a contract than a re-grant.
There you go.
It has to be a what?
It has to be more of a contract, like you buy it for them rather than grant it, you know.
Oh, right, yeah.
Grant Lennon money.
And one possibility, John Kane, we haven't talked about this, is Next Stage was our small business vendor who does economic development stuff in other counties. He was terrific. He knows how bad we are. He said he's been talking with some other partners about a way to do this for businesses. It might be something that we could contract with them with to do that.
Hey, Barbara, I'm sorry. Sorry, John, go ahead, and then I'll ask. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, my job is just to nod and smile and agree with Barbara. And no, that may be a possibility, but I don't know that we're at a point we can make a decision now.
We're not. Oh, no, we're not. This is still very early stages. And we need to do that asset mapping with Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund first. But I could see maybe by fall, something like that.
Bernie, go ahead.
Yeah, my question was going to be about this, and that already went on my head, Barbara, the name New Vision, you said, a vendor?
Next Stage.
Say more about them, would you?
I'm pausing only because Next Chapter is my favorite winery, and at times Next Stage is a nonprofit organization that does a lot of economic development work in Scott County, Dakota County, and Hennepin County. And somehow or another, we met up with them during the CARES Act dollars, and they did the administrative work for our small businesses. But what they predominantly do is economic development work.
But they're a not-for-profit, you say?
Yes.
Huh, interesting. I've never heard of them before. Thanks for that.
I'll get you the information.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there could be, you know, you were mentioning hotspots. There could be more public hotspots, you know, around the counties. But that we did a lot for the individuals, you know, and the low income and stuff with the CARES Act dollars and stuff, and back to the businesses. I think, just trying to get education opportunities, whether it's little seminars, or I was just out at McGraw Monuments talking about some gravestones that we're replacing in the cemeteries, and some lady came in to buy something, they don't have credit card capability, and it's like the last thing on their mind, just because the new owner doesn't know anything about it, and PayPal and Square is so easy now, to get hooked up with. And if you start educating them on, the social media and the free advertising through social media, and, being able to take credit cards this way, then it falls into, now they're going to have a need for better internet or broadband. So it all kinds of, plays into it. But I think that would be, what I would say the biggest priority is the businesses, education now.
Shannon, you brought up a really good point about, interfacing with small business owners that are really going through a gauntlet now, and they're looking at their priorities. And, when you're thinking about a grave digger, the bucket on his digger is more important than his email in a small town, right?
Yeah.
So how do we assist those people and help facilitate this in a way that isn't encumbering of their time and other things, that it's convenient, accessible, and doable to build their digital chops with them, right?
Well, I think it's going to require their time. They're going to have to devote time to learning and analysis of it.
Sibley County with their Blandon grant did some, like breakfast. So like an hour in the morning, and they had some muffins and coffee and juice, and then had a speaker. I think when I did that, when I was talking about, just basic logo design, so that they didn't end up costing them more money later on, because their friend designed something in Word, and then they're paying a design fee every time they want to do anything with their logo. And they had some lunch ones too, and they had newspaper talk and they had radio talk. I gave a basic, again, presentation on Facebook, but they had there was a snowstorm, probably 6 inches of snow, and they had like 30 people show up for the breakfast one, so if you set them time, things like that, it seemed like it was a really successful program that they were doing.
I think one aspect of this is people re-engaging again and how to do that. We had 60 people participate in this initially, and sent this invitation out to everyone again. Heard from very few. Some people, as you all know, have burnt out completely and are not ready to re-engage yet. Others have gone in other directions and stuff, but we've lost some of that momentum, all the people that were involved and signed up with the projects initially. And I'm just wondering how to re-engage with more of them as we move ahead, because we really need that energy again. Maybe, in fact, we haven't spent our fund money yet. I know we can't spend it on alcohol, but people could buy alcohol. We could have food and have something this summer at maybe next chapter. But maybe something that would kind of re-engage people again in a different way, because we kind of need to re-energize ourselves as well.
Yeah, I love this idea. We all just kind of fell into a foxhole right in the middle of this because of things, and we're facilitating as much as we can virtually here in these environments. But Barb, the person-to-person and group get-togethers are really important. I'm hoping that maybe we can use some of these wonderful outdoor areas with Wi-Fi accessibility, right, as a kickoff point. Maybe we have a grand opening for the fairgrounds canopy, and have a get together there. And
that'd be a good way to do it.
Really lean into it while we're telling the story of success along the way,
So Carl, talk more about that fairgrounds canopy. We're all excited about it.
Yeah. So one of the things that we applied dollars for in partnering with MetroNet in a few of our outdoor parks. We also have Lake Washington, the Nye Nature Center, and the fairgrounds area in Bradshaw Woods was they were willing to partner with us to provide connectivity at a gigabit push-pull for 5 years on their partnership side, working with the CARES Act dollars to put in a complete coverage for the entire fairgrounds. outdoor Wi-Fi hotspot accessibility and the neighboring Bradshaw Woods. We're also doing this same thing with NetWave, people that put up towers to provide campground area coverage, or what we call a Wi-Fi canopy in the Lake Washington campground. And then they're also putting up a hotspot, I believe, Liz, kind of in your network there, that was built out on border to border at the Lexington Township Hall. Their parking lot and the neighboring restaurant and lake area, the lake public access area, will also have a Wi-Fi canopy. So again, we need to lean into the things that we've invested in to tell the story, to build the message, to rebuild actual person-to-person community again, and re-energize the process. Because we still have $30,000 of this generous Blanding grant to apply effectively. And
plus $1,000 of fund money.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting
so we
that.
could have the food and have a food vendor. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And there's some, Next Chapter has been doing a great job of that as spring is opening up now, right? Getting a food truck out there, doing multiple events on their premise. And I see that happening at the, Monty Brewery downtown. And the Neesons have a few different places around that are mom and pop food vendors and restaurants.
But if we did it at the
one in Lesueur.
Yeah.
But
I
if
have
we
a
did it at the,
connection with somebody that makes really good barbecue.
I know. I've been
No,
wanting
guy,
to,
I got
I haven't had it yet.
Barb and Liz,
I can twist his arm.
A guy in Lesueur just opened a barbecue
Right.
truck, and he travels to events.
I took
It's
cards from the guy
really
in Belle Plaine, Barb. So let's get his truck down there.
Well, Denise is local. They have a new barbecue truck, and Denise put on the calendar June 15th noon at the fairgrounds. My thought was we would have that food truck there for the business event at the fairgrounds.
I could twist his arm. Or we live right by Next Chapter. It's less than a mile from our house, so we can cruise on over, whatever you want.
Yeah, in fact, Denise, they said that you should call over there because they set up food trucks all the time, and you should call and get on their calendar.
Hey, Denise,
Okay.
can you also email me your contact information for your new truck? That's Carl.
Well, we're in the process of getting our truck. With COVID, it hasn't come together. Everything is behind. So we don't have a physical truck / trailer yet, but it's in the works, and everything is slowed down with COVID, of course.
Yeah.
Soon, but yes.
Sorry, Bill, we got distracted by barbecue.
The new one in Lesueur is called Johnny's Smoke and Barbecue. I think he had his grand opening last week.
So Barbara, I just jumped over to June 15th on my calendar for whatever reason.
I'm sorry, it's July 15th.
Oh,
Thank you.
All right.
July 15th.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying we have a cohort. I don't even know why I looked, but I was like, we have a cohort meeting that day. Is
Thank
that gonna be
you.
a problem?
July 15th.
I'll say if you want to reach businesses and help them want to work on their websites or their social media, get some speakers who have done a good job, local speakers who have made a difference. You could make that a challenge between now and then. As somebody who's done a lot of that kind of training, one local success story can spur a lot of interest.
True.
Challenge these barbecue houses to a social media-a-thon between now and June 15th or July 15th, But hearing from your own helps a ton.
And that's a great idea.
Well, another thing to add is the local restaurants and stuff that had to, go online with their menu for ordering and takeout, from COVID. And I mean, or the grocery stores too. I think Rademacher's and Lesueur was doing it took them a long time to get set up, but that's your success stories, you're talking about that. It was a big deal for all of them, I think, to switch over just to keep some business.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, I'm hearing a lot of resonance and ringing in consensus around EDA as a whole for the small businesses, right? And those people that are venues that were heavily impacted by the shutdowns as a focus area.
I'm thinking one of your to Ann's comment about bringing a speaker who did well at Pizzeria 201 in Montgomery, I think had more business during COVID and since. I think it did not slow their business down. Their inside restaurant is their staging area for prepping meals, and I think they're busier than ever.
Yeah, Troy and Diane literally crushed it, right, Liz?
Yep, yep,
And we were weekly Friday nighters.
yeah.
I think what's really nice about their restaurant is that they're not afraid to be sophisticated and make money doing it. And
Agreed.
that's what's really nice. And it's so welcome.
And the mobile pizza ovens, I mean, that came before the food trucks, and they have a foothold.
I think the Naughty Bar and Grill in Elysian has a pretty good success story. I've never been there, but they have quite a following.
Who knew that there was all this amazing barbecue and amazing local foods happening in Le Sueur?
Yeah.
And you guys have got me all primed to come on down, and I hope that we'll be able to be there for this community event you're planning.
I think, man, throwing a party on July 15th just sounds like a blast.
That sounds good. Any other ideas that Barbara should put on the list for projects? Barbara, how do you want to solicit other ideas, or, you know, if people need to spend this money by the end of the year, you know, starting giving people money in September seems risky to me. So, I mean, it'd be great to get some priorities kind of set, you know, and budgeted, and people lined up to do the work. And, you know, it's May 1st here next week.
Yeah.
And, that's 7 months from Christmas. So let's,
I'd like to.
a little urgency, I think, is good.
I hate it when you do stuff like that, Bill. 7 months from Christmas, you did not hear that here.
Thank you.
I'd like to split the $30,000 so that the library gets some, because I know that they are having a difficult time overall because of the pandemic. And that the people in Le Sueur at least have really been using the computers and the hotspots.
Well, let me add that we have talked about this in Carl in passing with our mind melds, but boy, having that fellow hook in with our libraries and identify some of these issues and then fund that with the fellow, because they'll be that person is getting trained in July, will be on board in August, and could really do some follow-up with that to see what the need is and rectifying what some of those problems are if possible.
Is there a way to identify maybe a couple of the projects that, you know, maybe will only give part of the money, but could use a lot more money as like a standby? You know, so let's say, you know, we tried to spend as much as we could on some of those other projects, and, you know, come September, you got 10,000 left, then you have something identified that could definitely use extra money. So it's not like Bill said, you know, a rush to spend it.
Well, we're in the process of figuring out, I think a big need still is, I want to go back to that communication need, is building out a website, building out a presence, so that as we do things, there's some place to reference back this information that will help us to build. In fact, potentially having a blog under that. Sarah's talking with Region 9. They offered the possibility of using a part of their network to do that, as opposed to setting up independently. But building up that communication vehicle is huge. And I like the idea of it being Region 9, because they can hang on to it in the future, as opposed to having it be something that's going to be done by the end of the year. But I just think everything that we've talked about needs to be on the website, available for people to look at, and to have links out to other places. That's still a huge issue. And that will take a good amount of that money, or some of it. We need to map that out.
Well, and maybe that's the big project that you dump the money into at the end, you know, if there's, you know, excess.
Well, I think that well, we're going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks, because I'd like to have this up and running by the time we do the economic development stuff. and all the communication we have going on now with all the broadband development with the townships. So I think in terms of having some place to dump it into, we also have the fellow that will need to be supporting some of that work potentially. So but I agree with you, Bill. We need to have it done soon, but I don't think we're going to have a budget today. I think we need to step up our meetings so that we have that in a month or 6 weeks at the most. We'll know a lot more after that, after our economic development meetings are coming, but having this, if we have a big event at the fairgrounds and invite people in, we'll get more interest going again too. So
I think also we might have some opportunities to spend, not just to spend the money, but might need the opportunity to do a direct mail piece or some advertising. If we do go with a website, maybe a direct mail piece just to every household might be a good way to market it, or just looking at ways to market the new website.
mm-hmm.
Or market the whole project.
Yeah.
Certainly informing people about the progress you've made, I think that's a pretty powerful presentation that all the true believers have now seen and heard a couple times. But how do you get that out to the other, whether it's a presentation to the county board or to each of the city councils, or some kind of quick YouTube kind of videos that you create? And this, of course, this meeting's being recorded, but to do a snappy kind of success story PowerPoint YouTube video or something that could get online, that you could chase people to, have some people who didn't have broadband, now they have it. Talk about recognize some of your leaders who have helped make it happen. Recognize the township boards that have put money in, and do a little celebration video would be really positive, I think.
Carl?
I'd like to just to offer thought about, I really liked the Bill's suggestion about getting in front of the county board. And I was going to ask Barbara, how many townships are there in Lisa?
We're so lucky we don't have 62 like one of those. We only have 14, thankfully. Okay.
Because again, just throwing it out there as a strategy for really, that communication is such a key, that some of our other counties, we've seen people just being really intentional about going to each of those, getting on the agenda, going to each of those township meetings, and bringing message to them.
And
well,
we have done that.
We have been to every township more than once, which is why
there
we
you
were
go.
successfully able to get 200,000 of their 277,000 last time. But the conversation is evolving all the time, and they don't typically use Zoom, so that has not been. But the possibility of having something at the fairgrounds, invite the townships in so they can see what's going on with us. But I'm going to go back to Carl, because we do have a great video thing still in the works, Carl.
Yeah, we've been collecting video, under COVID restrictions all year of the various stages of the projects, focus areas. And our student leaders here at TCU in our media productions class have done either in-person interviews or Zoom interviews with key members on our steering team and those people that were actually facilitating projects up to this date. So we have a ton of content, Bill, collected. And
that is so awesome.
Yeah, so the lead educator, Bernadine, it will be really neat when it's done. Barb put a torch under me, 3 nights ago to have a small teaser for you guys today. I just couldn't, we're just buried right now because of end of school year and just coming out of COVID cloud and regrouping our steering teams here locally to leverage all of these synergistic funding sources to the maximum that we can. That is just not happening yet, but we are going to have something very near, and for you to share on your blog very soon, be it maybe in segments or potentially a documentary form, and we're working on that. So
those shouldn't be mutually exclusive, because you can do a lot with those snippets. on social media and then
Yeah.
drive them to the long form.
That is a great plan. And like mine's Think Greatly, right, Ann? Because our media educator actually said that maybe we should just do a series. That way you're drawing them to the next thing, which I love that concept and idea. You know, I can tell that you promoted bands for a while. It's always the next gig in the merch, right?
Always the next gig. It's always the next gig.
Yeah.
Goes back to Dickens, you know, you get them to get the next penny
Yep.
article. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of that, I just want to throw out there, so Mary's had this really creative idea for we're looking ahead now, starting to think about our fall conference and how we're going to do it differently in COVID. And one of the ideas is that we would actually have an kind of a RFP for talent and invite people if they had something really cool they wanted to share, do, or, you know, produce. And this sounds like a wonderful, that would be just such a cool candidate for that opportunity.
We actually were talking about kind of a film fest type of thing, you know, encouraging people to make videos. So that would be really fun.
Cool.
I also wanted to jump back to that whole idea of trainings for small businesses, which it sounds like it's going to be really, sounds like it would be a really important thing. You know, there was a lot of up in northern Minnesota, there was a lot of one-on-one where, you know, a vendor would go around to different small businesses over the course of several months, you know, so about 10 hours of training or something like that. And just, you know, that one-on-one where they wouldn't have to leave their business, that was very effective. The social media breakfast idea, it just occurred to me that, you know, our own economic development corporation here in Itasca County did those, and they asked for money for those. They rarely costed them anything. So they had a heck of a time trying to spend that money. So that's something neat that you might be able to do. It's nice sometimes to give a little honorarium to the speaker if they need it, but a lot of them are happy to share, or at least they were up here.
They had, now that you reminded me, they had local businesses that offered to sponsor the food too, you know, so.
Right.
And they do a similar thing in Mankato that's very popular.
Nice. Well, hey, Barbara, I'm looking at the clock here. We're almost to our time, and I want to honor everybody's calendars. As the leader of the group here, do you have what you need for a next step?
Well, everybody that's left on the call is on our steering committee. So, so that I will set up a steering committee meeting, and we will follow up with that and and revise that list and look at the budget stuff at our next meeting. And we can do that probably in the next 2-3 weeks, and then we'll have a better sense of all this.
I'm
Sounds
curious,
good.
do you know what happened to Michelle Dawn? Why she left?
No. Did she say?
I was so excited to see her there.
She had another meeting she put on the chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think she did check out in the chat that thanked us and said something about leadership. She said something nice. Thank you for your commitment.
And Pam
she
Williams
wrote.
had to leave too. Yep, it was good to see her.
Yeah.
Well,
this was really, really helpful for me. I feel energized, encouraged. As Bill said, you guys are the superstar team. It's hard to beat. And especially, you know, I tweeted some out on them, you know, somebody said, Barbara, you said, a year ago, we had never met, many of us, and we still haven't met. And here we are still Zooming and working together. You guys are amazing.
well, we're starting to hang out at Next Chapter. Liz Krochek and I 2 nights in a row. Very dangerous.
Okay. Well, and we got a little virtual tour of all the amazing food stands and local food stuff you got going on. So thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.